the big thing you got to come back to over and over again is like, what is a secret sauce? And even if the secret sauce isn't something that is technically like super, super, super differentiated, you've got to tell a story that makes it appear that way, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting to, maybe it's a capability or an area of phrasing something you do better than the other competition, even if they say that they do the exact same thing. How can you reframe it and reposition it as it's a secret sauce and unique to yourself?
Hey everyone, welcome to On Messaging, a show for B2B product marketers on how to create messaging that resonates with your audience. On the show today, I have Ryan Yackel, Chief Marketing Officer at Databand. Ryan is a former sales engineer turned product marketer turned chief marketing officer. This was a phenomenal conversation. Ryan came prepared with props, in the trenches product marketing stories, frameworks for narrative design, and book recommendations. Plus, we had a lot of good laughs. During our conversation, you'll learn ways to use narrative design in product launches, a very compelling sales narrative, how to use AI for competitive research, how product marketing is different at a startup versus an enterprise, and so much more. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and follow it on your favorite podcast app, YouTube, and Substack. It's the best way to get notified of every new episode. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Ryan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you are the second CMO to come on the show and the second to say that product marketers are a great fit for CMO. Let's kick things off and hear why.
Yeah, so this, and I wrote a LinkedIn article on this, so maybe I can give it to you. You can link it after this podcast. But
for sure,
how this, kind of how I got to the position I'm in now was kind of interesting story, because I had been in product marketing pretty much, for the past 8 to 7 years or so. And I got started in product marketing through a weird spot, which was a sales engineer. And I've actually seen a lot of people come up into product marketing through sales engineering, because essentially what you're doing is you're messaging, demoing, selling, all the things that you need to do in a full cycle for a customer you need to do to get the deal done. And then what happens usually is sales engineers are used by marketing a lot because they're the subject matter experts in the space, and they go to them for like, hey, could you help me do web copy on this new feature coming out? Hey, could you verify these are our correct ideal customer profiles and personas, and are we targeting the right industries, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That basically is a lot of stuff that product marketing does. So I went from sales engineering to product marketing, and I was in that for a long time. Did that at 3 startups, all very successful. Unfortunately, very rare that happens. So like, I don't know what, I don't know how that's happened. It's definitely not me, but I guess, God's got a good plan coming out for me, hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, so I started and did director of product marketing, went to global product marketing and VP of product marketing in a DevOps company, and then also at a cybersecurity company. And then what happened was back during, around the COVID times, which we all fondly remember, I was getting hit up a lot by executive tech recruiters, and I had a product marketing background, and they kept on asking, I saw a pattern kind of go on, which was they're reaching out to me. They're saying essentially on the lines of this. They're saying, hey, we're looking to either replace a current head of marketing or VP of marketing at a B2B tech company. Mm-hmm. Or we're looking to hire our first, leader in marketing. And we're looking for somebody that has a strong product marketing background. And I kept on hearing this over and over and over again. I was like, why is this this keeps coming up over and over again, like a strong product marketing background? Yeah. And so I started to think about it, and I was like, oh, okay, now I kind of understand it, because basically product marketing is the overall go-to-market strategy for all of marketing if it's done right? If you have product marketing that's in place, I give this analogy of, if you have a car and the car is, let's say, the marketing team, if they're on a highway and they're just driving on the highway, then like everything's fine, right? Everything's good to go. Maybe you're in a really good category that just, PPC is working great and digital ads and events and email, all the traditional channels, and SEO is going great, right? We're crushing it, right? Well, then like take a step back and go, okay, what if like you're going through turbulent times and the car is now actually uh, driving down a valley from a mountain and it's snowing outside and it's getting really, really, really dark. Now that snow turns into rain and now the windshield wipers are on going like crazy. And then your speed, went from 60 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour. Well, what product marketing is in that area, in that category, in that particular analogy, is that it's the lights for the car to make sure the car is going in the right direction. And so when I took a step back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm realizing, or I can see now, it's like demand gen or demand capture or whatever we're calling it these days. I'm sick of these freaking terms for what marketing is these days. But they really cannot succeed unless they're giving guidance from the product marketing team. And so like my team was the ones that was doing all the messaging. We were doing all the analysis for our ABM marketing program because we had to have what keywords and what intent and what ICP we're going after, what personas we're going after. Every time we had a conference, it was like, what topics are we going to talk about? Anytime we went through a new corporate messaging strategy or a product launch strategy, it was, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to position this? During competitive, it's like, hey, who's our main competitors? How are we going to compete? So it was like all the strategy stuff, really the product marketing shouldered that. And then the demand capture team is basically looking to product marketing to tell them what they should be focusing on. And so they really, and this is not a disparaging thing to demand gen. Hopefully that comes across. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying is like the tightly coupled groups together. Like if you do not have a really good product marketing team, demand gen's floundering, right? They're just floundering in the wind because they are not the experts in the space and they're not supposed to be. I mean, they should know the industry really well, but they're all into demand gen tactics and demand capture tactics to then take the stuff that product marketing is giving them to then go and execute on that. And so when I took a step back, it was like, oh, like that kind of makes sense of why you'd want somebody that was to be a CMO that has a really strong product marketing, go-to-market strategy background to then guide the demand gen team to be successful. And so that was one of the big reasons. Another one of the reasons was like, especially if you're in like a Series A, Series B, company, the founders are definitely going to be there. They're going to be in executive positions and they need to be able to talk to the marketing team and the marketing leadership team. And they need to be able to be like, okay, I can talk to this person and they get what I'm talking about because I'm really into the tech right now, right? I'm really into helping them understand the tech. And so if they don't have that techie background as well, then they're going to be like, they're not going to have that respect for the marketing team. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, you sold that beautifully.
Thanks. That's
that was really good.
I got a doorknob to sell you too if you want. I'm just kidding.
I love that analogy as well. And there's so many different product marketing analogies, and that one was really wonderful. There's another one that I heard of product marketing. If you think of a wheel, and a wheel has spokes and it has a hub, product marketing is kind of that hub, and the different spokes of what product marketing does goes out to the outer wheel that makes the wheel turn, essentially. And kind of like you said, a lot of what product marketing is responsible for, understanding the market, understanding the product, the competitors, everything that then flows into the type of marketing tactics that you do. And it does seem like that is a good indicator of what a successful CMO would look like, is they understand the market, the competitors, the product, the strategy, the tactics, what it needs to have a successful marketing department. So thank you for sharing. That was wonderful.
Yeah. And again, a lot of the analogies I come up with, I probably didn't make the analogy. I probably took it from somebody else and made it my own.
But you remembered it.
But yeah.
That was awesome. All right. So let's dive into narrative design a little bit.
Yeah.
So narrative design is your kind of go-to framework when you're kicking off a tier 1 product launch. Can you walk through maybe a recent messaging update on how you use narrative design, maybe at Databand or IBM data
Yeah.
integration?
Yeah. So I do it for every company that I'm in, that I'm at.
Okay.
So I did this at Tricentis. I did it at QA Symphony, even though at QA Symphony, technically narrative design, I don't think really was like around necessarily then, but I had some version of it. I think I did that. The guy who made it, or made it really popular, I think he also invented it. His name is Marcus Andrews, and he actually has like a product marketing alliance certification you can get from him. I got one of those when I started to go through this narrative design process, but he's really good. And the way that I got approached to narrative design was that I saw him talking about it on a blog, then I saw the certification kind of pop up. But narrative design is essentially what you're doing is you're telling a story that's a differentiated value proposition that is that's the core thing. But the backdrop is the big change that's going on in the space, and how can they adapt within this space. And so, for example, like usually what you start out with is like a big change, how that impacts the audience that you have, how they are trying to adapt to change, why it doesn't work, what's the old way of doing something, what's a new way that we're going to anchor our story on to then differentiate, and then how would you describe that category? And it's not necessarily category creation; it's just like positioning within a particular category that you may have or may be in, and then explaining how you help that customer, guide them into that new journey. And so, like at Tricentis, it was everyone was talking about test automation. It was like, okay, test automation is the category for Gartner. It's the Magic Quadrant for test automation. I can't remember what it's called, right? Something around test automation. So like test automation was like your basic. That's what you did. You would use automated to do manual testing on web applications, enterprise applications, mobile applications, whatever it was, right? But you couldn't just say, "Hey, we're the best automated testing product," right? It's like, okay, everyone can say that. And so, like, what was a way to differentiate within test automation? It was okay. Well, what if it was you just didn't need or just didn't require automated testing? What if you needed like performance testing and load testing, and you did exploratory testing? So you started to add in all the different components of what makes up a better testing strategy for your organization, and we called that continuous testing. And so instead of saying, we could say this, we say, hey, your company, or you're evaluating solutions that do test automation, great, everyone does that. We're the only company that can really get you into a continuous testing posture that includes all these other things you may not be aware of. So we did that. I did that at Tricentis. We did that at a company called KeyFactor when I was there. The category was machine identity management. We anchored on future-proofing your crypto agility posture for quantum certificate or quantum cryptography, which is now a huge thing. But back then it was like, hey, yeah, if we have machine identity management, set up, that's great. But like, what's going to happen in the future? You don't want to revisit your, digital trust posture, a few years from now. And then at Databand, we did the same thing. We looked at, how can, when we came into the data observability space, it was an emerging market. And so we had to think about, okay, this is not an established market. People don't even know what observability is in the data space. So like, whereas the other two companies were well-established categories, this was a new space. So it was like, okay, how, and it was something that was being recognized more and more in the market, but again, not really. Like data quality was the main component, and observability was like this umbrella that went over data quality. And so it's how can we position within that? So we took other observability solutions will be focused on the right side of the warehouse or right side of the consumption layer of your data. We say that's too late to find issues. You're already, basically dead in the water if you find a data defect or bug that's like way too far down in the process of where data is being delivered. You got to shift left. You've got to take a more proactive approach, and that's where we come up with a proactive shift left mentality for data observability. And then recently, we're coming out with a new product that for IBM data integration. And I've been working with a lot of the product management teams to bring the messaging of this product to market. And the way we've been thinking about it is, how can we position within a very well-established data integration space to talk to our customers that has a huge current install base, but also look at new logo acquisition, and how can we reframe it into positioning within that data integration category. And so we're going to be coming out with that sometime in May. So I can't talk about it right now, but it'll be coming out in May. I don't know when this podcast is going to drop, but it'll be coming out in May.
After. You should be fine.
But sorry, to take a step back, like, why is it my favorite? So like, that's what it's meant to do. Why is it my favorite? It's because, especially when you're dealing with C-level people that have lots of opinions about how you're going to bring a product to market, you can get into the weeds so quickly and you miss the overall story. And so, like, this was an example with the product that we're going to market very soon, is that we had all these capabilities we're coming out with. We had all of these like new features we're coming out with. And my question back to the product management team was like, what's the story? Like, give me the story. I don't understand the story. Give me the story. And then when we're getting into like UI UX discussions, it was like, even the UI UX people were like, I don't understand this overall story. You're giving me like requirement A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? But I don't understand what the overall story is. And so I started to bring narrative design, not just to this product, but other products within IBM, and take them through this process before they start doing journey maps and like UI UX research and prototyping. Like they would jump into that right away. And I'm like, hold off. Like, let's tell the story that a UI UX person can understand. A technical product manager obviously understands, but because they know the product, a marketing, idiot like me can understand. And then anyone else like should be able to walk through this narrative and go, okay, I get it. Right. You don't even know all the, nooks and crannies of like how the product works and how it's deployed and delivered, but give me the reason why, give me the differentiated value, and always try to frame it within like the way to best position that is to frame it with like old way versus new way. And that's what we've been doing over here, which is, I love it. It's a great, easy to follow framework to at least get the story straight.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds like it would be a great framework for highly technical products, which it sounds like you have a lot of experience in, and you've been able to kind of use that same framework across multiple types of industries and categories. And I have a couple follow-up questions here. And that is, where does the narrative go? Like on a tangible level, as well as like, where does it go, or what does it look like, and where does it go on a tangible level?
Yeah. So what it looks like is I package together a sales narrative. And so after it's all basically written out, I would then basically write at the very beginning of this, like this documentation that I would go push out to everybody. It's like, do you agree on this narrative? Yes or no? Like, if we agree on the narrative, then we can move on to more deeper level messaging and web page messaging and product messaging. Like, we can get to that, but it's got to tie back to the narrative. So like in practicality, the narrative operates as like the foundational point, both for the messaging going forward, and then also the sales person that needs to be able to tell this story. And I say at the very beginning of this document, I say like, hey, by the way, you are not to repeat this story exactly the way that it's written and sound like a robot and take up, you don't just read this thing to the customer. Like, the whole point of you reading this narrative is to, number one, like understand what the heck you're selling and what the big story is that you're selling, so you can actually relate to the customer you're talking to. And number two, we're going to boil this down into a client deck, a presentation, or whatever, that's going to be a consolidated version of the story. But if you don't know the story, you don't know the background, you don't know like the big change and what people are struggling with and how they're trying to adapt to it, then you have no empathy towards the customer. And then all what you're doing is you're essentially showing up and throwing up a demo or a presentation without actually understanding the background of why that presentation makes sense. And so practically gets put into a document that's literally called the sales narrative. Then it gets moved into more of like a messaging framework and templates for, this is what we're going to market with for our hero messaging. It gets turned into, I have a lot of other templates that I merge together for, like, here's your elevator pitch, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Here's a way to position the product that maybe the customer knows of an adjacent product that then you can relate to. So an example of that is like saying something to the effect of like, hey, do you know who Datadog is? Do you know who New Relic is? Do you know who Instana is, Dynatrace? And most of them are going to be like, oh yeah, I know them. Like, they're on publicly traded companies. Like, I know them. They're hot tech companies. You go, oh, okay. Like, how they do application observability for your cloud applications and microservices. And they go, yeah, I understand. I go, okay, well, we're basically Datadog or Instana or New Relic, but for data teams. And we call that data observability. And they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So you're giving them a frame of reference to like look at and go, oh, okay. If I just showed them, go, hey, we got this data observability tool, let me talk to you about it. I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? But if I say like, hey, this thing over here that you know of that you can put a frame of reference around. Okay, we're like that, but here are the small things that are different, and that instantly puts into their mind like, okay, now I have a frame of reference of how to view this thing that I'm about to be talked to about.
Yeah, it paints that definitely helps paint a picture in the mind too of like, you say Datadog or whatever. It's like that, but for this, and it's almost like connecting those lines and painting the picture. And that's what people are going to remember, right? They're not going to remember a slide if there's a bunch of words on it. They're going to remember the picture that you painted in their head.
Yeah.
Have you ever created a narrative for a multi-product organization?
Yes. So with the product that we're coming out with for IBM for data integration, it is a multi-capability product. So it's not usually what you have is like you have multiple tools that are all filling up the data integration strategy. We're consolidating those tools and we're giving you more of like a control plane for data integration. So I did it for that. I will say it does work better when you have more of like a single threaded product because the story is just tighter.
Yeah.
It's a lot tighter. Mm-hmm. I think that when you get into like these multifaceted types of things, multi products, you've got they have to kind of connect together in some format versus trying to tell a huge company story. So like example, IBM does everything, right? I'm in the data and AI space, but in the data and AI space, I'm in the data fabric space, and data observability and data integration is a part of data fabric. So like it depends on what level of story you're telling. Now, I will say like at Tricentis, those are all multiple products that we sold around the continuous testing framework that we had. Mm-hmm. But it was also towards like the same group and the same buyer. So like it wasn't that different. It wasn't that necessary to have like multiple story points that were across these different buyer units and things like that. Because ultimately, if you're a VP of engineering, VP of quality management, VP of development, you're going to have the testing team or the testing organization that's underneath you. And they're going to be hearing the same type of discussions from vendors that are either selling one tool like test automation, or they're selling load testing, performance testing, manual testing, and test automation. So the answer is yes, I've done it for both, but it's easier when you have a more, clear cut product because telling a company-wide story when you have a company that has, so many different layers and arms to them, like you can't necessarily do it in that regard.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit harder. I can see that. Awesome. All right, let's jump into some of our other topics here. So you've shared that you've been exploring how to use deep research to get more focus on competitor go-to-market motions and messaging. Can you share a little bit of some of what you learned? Yeah.
So, and I'm going to pull up the names because I always forget the names of people that I reference here. But there's two things, or one thing I've been doing is I've been using a lot of Google Gemini deep research, and I think a lot of people are like, well, doesn't ChatGPT have deep research? Yes, and I haven't used ChatGPT deep research. I'm sure it's really good, maybe better than Gemini. I don't know. But I'm trying to stick with one thing right now and test it as much as I can.
Yeah.
And then if it starts to, hiccup or have problems or whatever, then I peace out. And that's just a quick note. Like, I know there's so many of these generative AI solutions out there with Claude and Perplexity and Gemini, and it's just like, it's never ending. And I think you can get pretty anxious by seeing all these things kind of go around. At least I do. So like I try to stick to one thing and then I test it out for like a couple months. And then if it's not solving what I want to solve, I may turn it off and go do something else or try things out. So I've been using Gemini a lot. And what I've been doing is there's one of the things I've been doing is taking the frameworks that I have and using those as prompts to then generate research based off of competitors. And so, for example, like what I've been doing is I would do a bunch of prompts to pull together, let's say, a messaging and positioning guide for how I think all these other competitors are positioning them in the market. And so what I would do is, like, for this book, this is April Dunford, obviously awesome. She has a framework that's in here that she has for messaging, or at least positioning yourself. And so what I would do is I would like do the prompts to do the research on all these different competitors that we have, pull back all that research, and then I would go to NotebookLM and I would take all the research that I got, I'd push it in there as sources. I would grab the PDF source, like the sources from her document that said like, hey, here's how you do your messaging, positioning, whatever. Then I would tell NotebookLM, like, give me a briefing document that takes the prompt research, deep research that I did on the competitors, put that into the framework from April Dunford, and then pump it out for each of these competitors. And so what I've done is essentially like rapidly shorten the amount of time it takes for me to at least get the baseline of their core positioning of their product into a framework they understand. And I can do that with all the frameworks, right? Basically taking deep research and mirroring it with NotebookLM to then basically taking your sources and then getting the information out of those sources that you want. So that's one thing that I've been doing that's been really good. Awesome. There's also been her name is, I think I'll go to her name. Her name is Carly, and she works at Bubble.
Does she have a last name?
Rosin Kranz. Sorry,
Okay.
Rosin Kranz. Yeah, Collier Rosin Kranz. Yeah. So she has this really awesome prompt that she used for doing deep research under an emerging category. And so basically what she has is like this, and she gives it to you. I'll send you the link after this, but
Yeah.
it was really cool because the prompt was insanely detailed of how she wanted ChatGPT. For me, I guess I used Gemini. I don't think she used Gemini for this, but it was very cool because she gave this really insightful prompt on analyzing the definition of market positioning for all the competitors in her space. And her whole goal was try to figure out, if we were to compete in this space, in this category, and maybe change up how we're talking in this category, what are the things we need to be aware of? And it'd be things like go and pull from specific forums like Reddit and YouTube and G2, not just saying like, give me all the information. It was like, give me these particular areas to go to. Give me the strengths and weaknesses. Like, give me the features and functionality that are most often asked for. Give me the primary target. And then it was like, at the end, give me a really concise, 5-page research paper that also has a table that has all this, put together. It's awesome. And I used that recently for one of our competitive deep dives. And the results were amazing. And so there's like and I say that to say, like, there's so many of these really amazing product marketers that are out there that have done a lot of this deep work on what prompts to use for this research. I think she did probably one of the best I've seen.
Yeah.
So I'll send you that link afterwards. You can post it. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing. Wow. I know there's a lot of product marketers who are really diving deep into AI and everything, especially like solo product marketers who have a lot on their shoulders. They're responsible for a lot. Yeah. And there's, especially from a research side of things, AI can definitely assist very well. I love the Gemini deep research to NotebookLM.
Yeah.
Integrate the obviously awesome framework to identify competitor positioning.
That was those are probably those prompts were probably my favorite that I did. The one thing also I'll say about, you talked about, and earlier we talked about narrative design. One thing I forgot to mention was that outside of narrative design, there's just one other, and I know I listed a bunch of other frameworks I use. I use a lot of different frameworks when I'm like going through the process, because I like to see how they look a lot of times versus just sticking with necessarily one. Like, I think narrative design is great to start out with, but then when you get a little bit deeper into your messaging, I think that it could probably change. But one of them, it's a very simple diagram, and it's from Corporate Visions. And essentially what they say is this: it's like you have an X and Y axis, you have the needs that the customer specifies, and then you have the capabilities that you have as a company. And basically what they say is, a lot of times you ask the customer, what are your needs? Tick, tick, tick. And then we go, okay, here are capabilities, capability 1, 2, 3 that match up to this, to these needs. And they go, this is a problem, because what happens is that you just basically created this box, this small box that gave you specified needs with specified capabilities. So an example is like, hey, get back to the Tricentis example, or even back to data observability. Like, do you do anomaly detection? Or we say something like, what are your needs around detecting pipeline issues? Well, we need anomaly detection. You go, okay, so you need anomaly detection. Okay, well, we provide anomaly detection. Okay, great. Well, what about run duration? Yes, we do run duration. Okay, great. It's like, so you're doing this, quick little thing here. And what happens is you get into this commoditized conversation, because what you're doing is you're just saying, like, you tell me what you want, and I promise I'll just give you back what you want. It's like this very, it's this process where it's now a race to the bottom, because if everyone has these commoditized conversations, then the question is going to be like, if I've talked to all these vendors, they say they do the exact same thing you do. What's your price? Yeah, because we're going to go with the lowest, common denominator, right?
Yep.
And so what they do is, and again, this is such a simple thing but it's also like really important to keep in mind, because a lot of people forget about this. And this is where, when I tie back into narrative design, I keep asking questions about, like, what's our secret sauce? What is the thing that we can plant a flag on to say that we're the only ones that can do this? And when it comes back to that corporate visions framework they have, they basically go, you got to uncover the unspecified needs of the customer, and then tie them to your unspoken needs or capabilities that you may not even know is a big differentiator for you. Then you create a box around the red box, and now you have this green box that goes overlaid, and you say, hey, this is where you win, because you're now tying the needs that they weren't even considering to your capabilities that you had that weren't uncovered yet, and that's how you stand out in the competition. And what we did when I was at KeyFactor, one of the QBRs that we had, we showed up, me and my team showed up, and we at every one of the sales reps' desks, they had basically like a red box. This is my kid's Nintendo Switch games. So like I couldn't find the box that I had made, but I used this little this thing, I can't remember what it's called, but my wife has this thing that you put cardboard in it and you tell the design, and it prints out this design, you can fold it. So I made all these small little red boxes out of red, construction paper, and they all had these red boxes at their desk. And this is before our messaging positioning conversation that we had. And we're going to go through what's our corporate message for the year? How are you going to win? What's our, whatever. And I was telling him, do not open these boxes. Do not open them until we get going. And so I gave our presentation. Did the red box, green box kind of thing that corporate visions talks about. And I said, now open the box. And I told them, they all open the box. And in the box were the names of all of our competitors. I said, KeyFactor does not go in this box. We are not in this box. Our competition can play in this box. We do not belong in this box. So it was a reminder to them to, when they're having these conversations with, and they know their competition's in there, don't have these commoditized conversations, because the competition's going to go there. You don't want to go there, because then it's going to be a pricing conversation. You've got to get outside of that box so that you have this differentiated value statement when you're bringing the product to market. And that was a really great visual for them. They loved it. It was just a great way to, put the visual with what we were trying to get into their heads. Cause a lot of times sales are, thinking about happy hour and, the night out at QBRs. But a really good way to, they could take it home. And I was like, put this at your desk so that when you have this conversation and you start to feel like it's getting a little bit tricky, look to the red box and be like, how can I get outside of this box when we're talking about our unique secret sauce and our capabilities for our customers' unspecified needs?
Mm-hmm. You know how to tell a really good story. I can tell why you wrote a children's book as well. No, you paint a picture very, very well. And a lot of times, especially if a sales team needs to sell multiple products, and if you're not selling an idea to them in a creative way, it'll go in one ear and out the other, and they'll stand on what they know and what they're used to doing. Mm-hmm. And that was, what you just explained is a very creative way. And what you were talking about earlier is like, what's our secret sauce and how do we not commoditize our features, or just when a customer says, I need this, and then you just respond by saying, we do that. And then you continue to go down that line. That resonated with me because that's something I'm trying to figure out right now, of how do we explain what we do, but not just say, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that every time someone asks if we do it or not. And not just spill out every single thing that we do, because that's just an endless list of like, yeah, we do pretty much everything you'll need, but so do all the other competitors. Lots to learn. I love this. And I'm going to gather, for anyone listening, I'm going to gather some of these frameworks and links that Ryan is talking about. Ryan, if you're generous enough to share them, I'm sure a lot of people could learn from everything that you're doing as well. All right. So you have exited at 3 separate startups. You claimed earlier in the show that it wasn't from you or from the marketing team's efforts, but I don't know if that's true or not. It seems like it might be, but I've been very fortunate that that's happened, and I've had 2 like minor exits and one full exit. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So how is product marketing and messaging different at a startup versus an enterprise company?
Yeah. And so the companies I've been at, like, just to give you like a range of I've been at companies from 0 to 24 million to 5 million to 100 million to, now, when we got acquired, we're part of $1 billion company now. Obviously I don't contribute $1 billion to IBM. But what I've noted, or what is a very, and this is kind of like no duh, Ryan kind of a thing, but unless you've been in this kind of motion, it's a very different motion when you get into a large enterprise. Because like in the startup world, or even probably sub even 300 million or whatever, you're really, 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 really targeting the new bookings, new logo acquisition. Like, and of course you're going to have cross sell, upsell, and expansion and everything like that. But majority of your business is going to be through new bookings and new logo acquisition. Well, when you get acquired by, let's say, a really big company, most of the time when they're acquiring you, it's for the technology you have, and also because of the opportunity to sell into their current customer base. And so at IBM, when we got acquired, we had Databand as a separate motion product within IBM. Like that's kind of what we were doing for a while. And now we're getting folded into the broader go-to-market strategy for not just data observability, data integration. It's a broader, bigger data and AI story, a broader conversation that involves things that are more at the data lakehouse component and data integration component versus like a point solution. So a lot of times you go from pure play point solutions to platform products. And what I think people don't realize from that is that because you are now a platform component and you're a part of these big, part of a big enterprise like IBM, you have access to way more sellers than you ever did before, which is a good and a bad thing. Because the good thing is you have more sellers, so there's more opportunity to sell, right? The challenging thing is that these sellers can also sell everything that's in the catalog. And so when you are in the position where we're at now, is we're not just looking for mind share in the market. We're looking for mind share in the IBM seller community and partner community, because we want to be top of mind for them when they're going into an account and they're wanting to position, a new data quality solution or observability solution. We want our solutions to be top of mind for them, because at the end of the day, they're trying to hit their quota. And so they're going to do whatever they can to hit that quota, whether we have this amazing product or this cool customer or this cool new feature. Like, they don't really necessarily care, but they will care if it's going to solve the customer's problem that they have. And if you're top of mind for them when you're doing a lot of the sales enablement, internal marketing you are doing to sales. And so a lot of my time now is, as a go-to-market leader, is educating the sales team constantly. And it's going to the digital offices in Dallas and sitting with them and giving them presentations of like, this is how you position this particular product that we're coming out with. And it's like, hey, getting on all hands calls for different QBRs across all the different regions and saying like, hey, this is the new stuff that we have. So doing internal newsletters and podcasts and videos and content that we can easily make public as well, but really pushing it to the sales team so that we're top of mind. Because if you're in a pure play company, you're basically the product is the product is going to be top of mind for you because it's the only thing you're selling. Yeah. Even if you have multiple products, but they all kind of come together, even like at Tricentis, you're still selling those products. At bigger companies, you have competing products almost trying to get mind share for the sales team. And so I think it's just a different challenge that you have to do. And you have to think about what is a upsell, retention, cross-sell message, because we do have access to the customers that we have currently, versus what does our net new bookings, new customer logo message look like? Could be completely different sales teams that you're talking to who are going after a new logo versus expansion and current customer retention.
What are maybe 3 tactics that you could give to other product marketers who are working in those large enterprise organizations where the sales team needs to sell multiple different products and you're fighting for mind share? What are 3 different tactics that they could use?
So one is ask me anything sessions. And so an ask me anything session, we did this at even at KeyFactor and Tricentis as well, and Databand. But and let's say you have a global team, because like at IBM we have a global team. Let's say we have a global team even at these companies. You can designate if you have multiple marketing leaders or product marketers in the different geos to do these types of things, so you can spread it out. But a ask me anything session would basically be like, hey, I know my salespeople. I'm going to put a scheduled calendar invite for them at X amount of time on a Thursday for the first first 2 months or first month of the quarter, or if it's a big product launch, where you can literally come and ask me anything that you want around the product, pricing, packaging, go to market, whatever it is. And we're here to help you sell. Like, I can't remember who said this. I didn't say it. Like, the whole goal of marketing is to like make sales easier. I heard somebody say that before, and I was like, that really hits the nail on the head. Like from top to bottom of the funnel, like that's the goal, right? Sales runs the world. If we don't sell, everyone's out of a job. Nobody has a, the company goes under, so you got to make sure you're selling, right? we got to get some cash flow going here. But so like that's one is like Ask Me Anything sessions. I think are really good. Like what I've done in the past too is like I've documented all the different questions that sales have had, and I just dump them into a shared drive and say, these are all the questions, frequently asked questions that we got. Here's how I answered them. Here's how you can use this on customer calls. And that can also be like at IBM, it's mostly going to be talking to the geo leads of the sales leaders and getting time share with them and doing that, right? So anything related to a sessions where you're getting in front of sales. Number two is like the content that you're curating for the sales team. I think needs to be something that always has a what's new. And this sounds really again, kind of like a no duh kind of a thing, but like, I mean, how many times have you gotten asked the question, like, what's new with this thing? Give me the what's new. I need to know the what's new. I'm about to walk into a customer. Tell me what's new, right? And so I've created, like, my team's created documents that basically has like, here's everything you need to know about what marketing is doing and also what product is doing at the same time. So we'll bundle it into like a what's new newsletter where it's like, here's what it is. Here's why it matters. Here's how to position something, right? Whether it's an upcoming webinar, it's a new product launch that we just had, new content we're releasing, new podcast we just came out with, whatever that is. Like, it's just a simple rolling monthly deck or document that just showcases everything that we've released or upcoming that releasing all in one place. So you're not having to like go and ask people like where to go and do these things or whatever. It's like, that's like a great way to just house everything for sales. Yeah. Third one, we've done internal podcasts before. Like we've got this thing called B Talk at IBM. It's like TikTok, but for IBM. Nice. And you can create content on there, and it's internal community to IBM, which is really cool. So we did that. We did a lot of that. And then I guess like on top of the podcast thing too, is I always like to say for sales, like the best way to give sales something is to give them something without overthinking it. So I was talking, I mentioned this to my buddy Ian like a long time ago. I can't remember when we were talking about this, but I was talking about how like, people think that sales are needy or they're, aggressive or they're like, I need this thing or whatever. Sales just wants to win, right? And when you figure out that marketing's role is to make sales win. Now, obviously there's bad marketing and salespeople, there's always going to be egos, things like that. But what I was trying to say is like giving them something is better than giving them nothing. And so like as a marketer, you like to think like, oh, they asked for this thing that I'm going to have to spend 4 hours on. Maybe it's like a quick one pager or data sheet or a video or something like that. Or we get the team to, write something up or whatever. And you have in your head like, oh, I need to do this very specific thing. When if you just took like 30 minutes versus 4 hours, they're going to take it. Like, honestly, like they'll be, okay, I got it, thanks. And they'll go figure it out. Like there's been multiple times where I've even tested that out where, shout out to Ashley Leeper. She was one of my favorite sales reps, but she was always, I love her, but she would like Slack me, Teams me, G-chat me, email me, all for the same request. I'm like, Ashley, I'll get you it. Just chill out. And what's so funny is like, she was one of the best reps at Tricentis, and she was still using like slide decks back when I was just doing product marketing. She was using slide decks from like 2015. It was like 2019. I'm like, Ashley, that like we've updated these decks, but for her, it was like, oh no, she's just an amazing seller and she could just go and do it. So she didn't need the most pretty put together, amazing collateral, amazing video. She just needed something. She needed something she could throw in front of a customer and talk to. And she did amazing. Still does an amazing job. So shout out to Ashley if you see this. So
that's a good example of someone who doesn't have to lean on a slide. They can tell a story. They can have a conversation. They can ask the right discovery questions that then plays into the conversation of understanding the needs and the pain points. And then that's where that's where the conversation goes. It might not even have a slide to that. That's the thing. It's like this. That's the connection. Like no one likes to sit through a presentation, that a typical slide deck's going to give you. But awesome. I love the shout out. All right, let's get into some of your contrarian opinions. There's a few here that you've mentioned and we talked about kind of prepping for our episode today. And one is using generative AI for messaging, and then the difference in B2B marketing between enterprise software and sales and marketing software. And then the last one is how great go-to-market beats a better product.
Yeah, the quick one on the Gen AI messaging, and I think Zach Mesler on your podcast may have mentioned this similar. Zach's a friend of mine. He's great. Shout out to Zach.
Great
cool guy. He's crazy. He's a crazy guy, but I love him. He's also insanely tall, by the way.
I've been told that many times.
He's so tall. The first time I met, I was like, dude. And I'm like not that tall, but like he's a giant. And anyway, he's really cool. It was funny because when he drove away, he like was renting this like BMW convertible, and he like barely fit into it. I was like, Zach, what are you doing, man? I was like, your head's gonna pop out here. No, I mean, even with all the stuff I mentioned about even like the competitive research and the messaging and things like that, I think that it's a really good start. And I think that what I've seen come out of like some of the generative AI stuff as well is quite honestly garbage. Like when even we ask it like, hey, rephrase this or whatever. And it's like, this is like jargon city, right? Oh, yeah. So you got to be careful with that. I think it does a really good job of giving you like launching points to start your messaging journey. But I do not think you need to take it and just go, okay, we're going to pick out of these 5 that they gave me. Like you can't do that. Mm-hmm. And maybe it'll get to a point where it can think and, have a differentiated viewpoint and whatever. But you can't just lean on it. And also people kind of figure out like if it looks kind of to be generates or not at times, like that's something as well. So I would just say caution on that. You can't just like, pump it out that way. The other thing is like when we talk about like how I think B2B marketing, B2B go-to-market for enterprise software versus like sales and marketing SaaS is very different. And what I mean by that is, and this is also like a caution, like I wrote this about PLG products. So like Bush, he's got this really good book. It's a great book. It's called Product-Led Growth. Came out in like 2019 rather. All these books by the way, have the same color schemes. I feel like they have these like, and then yellow, April's red. New book too is like that as well. It's kind of that they're all kind of the same color, but they're not from the same publisher. Anyway, sorry. That's a quick tangent. But it's a really good like baseline for the book. But the beef I have with product-led growth or things like that is that most of those products are non-technical products, meaning a lot of the examples that are given are Asana or Canva or Basecamp or like Atlassian to some degree, like with Jira, which was basically like a Trello board for a long time. And obviously Atlassian has way more technical products now. Yeah. They have these like, hey, just do, and I'm not saying this is not an attack on Wes, by the way, or anything like that. There's plenty of product-led products, product-led growth products that I've had dev backgrounds as well that have worked. However, I just don't think that a lot of companies are set up to be product-led growth when it's taught as almost like the silver bullet for your go-to-market strategy. Mm-hmm. And I've done product-led growth at multiple companies. I've done it in hybrid fashion and also pure product-led. I've mostly done it in a hybrid fashion because once you get into enterprise, you're selling to the enterprise and you're selling into not just selling a project management solution that you can put lists in and whatever for the marketing team. And you're talking about like, hey, I need to connect to your database. Hey, I need to poke a hole in your cybersecurity firewall. Hey, they're like, okay, like, no, like we're not going to just spin up your product and then get going on it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think that the way that dev dev products work for the most part is if they're smaller companies, don't have all these like stringent requirements. Okay. Or they're products that have an open source component to them, and then they can get upgraded into the enterprise. That was the thing we did at KeyFactor. We also had a free paid version of one of our products at Tricentis. Databand has a hybrid growth model as well, or hybrid sales approach as well. So I just say, like, as a caution to people, when you look at PLG, you've got to view it as a lot of these success stories are marketing and sales software type companies. They're not super enterprise tech heavy. And the reason being is because it requires a lot of more requires a lot more industry standards, security things, governance practices that go into that. They can't just have somebody take off and go run it and kick off and, spin up something and then pay with a credit card and then ultimately upgrade to the enterprise plan through a purchase order. And a great example of like a non-product led company that crushed it has been Wiz. They got to like 500 million. They weren't product led growth. They had a great brand, but they weren't product led growth at all. It was still an enterprise sales motion that they went through. So anyway, I just give this like caution because it's not apples to apples. And I think that you just got to make sure you're picking the right, not putting all your eggs in one basket when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And then, go to market beats better product any day. 100% think that that's the way that, I've seen it work at multiple companies that I've been at, which is like the story with QA Symphony, which ended up getting merged with Tricentis was, we were going after the big gorilla in the room, which was HP Quality Center. And it had like 80% more features than we did and capabilities than we did. Like we were like a little toy compared to this product, right? But we carved out a niche, which was around agile software testing that we thought that we could, by partnering with Atlassian and having the story around agile software testing, we could carve out the niche to get into these enterprises and get into these companies that were having a transformational process going on that was based off their methodology, and it wasn't based off the tools that were trying to align to. And so, we were, the days at QA Symphony were a bunch of, young 20 to late, 20-year-olds just out of college and all, lightning in a bottle kind of a thing. Like all these salespeople had no idea what they were even doing. Our product was good, but it wasn't better than the industry leading product at the time. But we had a great go-to-market team, marketing, sales, product all aligned together that allowed us to be successful. So, that was a big thing that played into our advantage. It wasn't that we had this amazing product. We had a really good product, but we had an amazing go-to-market team that we carved out a niche that we could really be successful in.
Yeah. I'm on board with these contrarian opinions. I like them.
Maybe not that contrarian, I guess. I don't know. I had some other ones, but we're not going to get into this.
All right. We'll save it for another episode. All right. We're going to get into some of our closeout questions. Same questions we ask everyone that comes on the show. What's one piece of messaging advice you would give to listeners that they can take away and implement tomorrow?
Definitely check out the narrative design process. I know I kind of mentioned is like, that's a very good framework that I have, but, during your messaging process, the big thing you got to come back to over and over again is like, what is the secret sauce? And even if the secret sauce isn't something that is technically like super, super, super differentiated, you've got to tell a story that makes it appear that way, right? At the end of the day, you're getting to, maybe it's a capability or an area of phrasing something you do better than the other competition, even if they say that they do the exact same thing. How can you reframe it and reposition it as it's a secret sauce and unique to yourself? Like that's a big thing that I always go back to, is because you always want to say like, yes, they're going to say they do this or they claim to do this. We also do that, but the way we do it is XYZ thing. And that's why we're the only ones that can do this way. And it could be, as simple as like, a core feature you're highlighting, but it all could be just the way that you're talking about that feature and the way that you're describing it so that they come away with it being memorable. One of the things that I wrote a LinkedIn article about like how to make memorable presentations or how to make really good, presentations. And at the end of the day, like people only remember in an hour conversation, like 15% of your conversation. Like that's like real data that's backed that up. I don't know if it's 15%, maybe it's even less than that but anyway, the thing is people don't remember anything. Right. And so you've got to be memorable. And so like, what can you do in your messaging process to stick out and be memorable? Could be something off the wall you're saying, could be whatever, but how can you be memorable is the big thing.
I love it. Great piece of advice. And the narrative design is key theme through the conversation. So
yeah, I love it, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Shout out to Marcus Andrews.
Shout out Marcus Andrews. Yeah, I'm going to dig
into
that a little bit more.
Pretty sure it's his name.
I think so. I think I know who you're talking about. He works for Pendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I think I follow him on LinkedIn. Okay. A more personal question here. If you could put it into a single sentence, what is living all about?
First of all, I like this question because I think that especially on LinkedIn, people get so wrapped up in their job, and me included. Like I'm speaking to myself right now about like, what am I doing? This is not just my job now. It's like everyone has always had this like idea in their life of like, what am I doing? Like you're doom scrolling LinkedIn. Everything looks like somebody else is about to, have their 2 shares they had in their company make them a gajillion dollars on the next IPO or whatever, right? Everything looks like amazing on LinkedIn. I think it's even worse than Instagram at times because on LinkedIn, it's rare you see any like negative comments. I feel like everyone is just praising everybody and it's like, oh, you're such a great job, whatever. So I think that's important, especially on LinkedIn. Like people need to be aware of like, what's their core thing and their identity. And so for me, like I'm a Christian, so like I'm not the best Christian, definitely not. I'm a flawed believer. I'm like Peter that loves Jesus and then screws up all the time. But no, I mean that for me. Like I talk to my wife and about this quite often. Is like when I get into a rut of not being contentful, it's like I'm not being grateful for what God's given me. I'm not being grateful for the blessings He's given to me, and I'm always looking for that next thing or that next thing that's going to make everything go better, right? That one thing that's going to make everything. I finally got it. Now I can rest and be contentful. Yeah. And so for me, like, what is life? I mean, I think it's summed up like love God, love your neighbor, I try to do that, and I obviously fail at that. People that listen to this podcast know the goods and bads of me, like being at companies, and I've flown off the handle multiple times and had to apologize to Judy Chung, she's a friend of mine, made her cry one time. And told her I was sorry, but she told me that it helped her though. But I was like, I don't want to make you cry, Judy. But anyway, no, I mean, I would say like that's like what is life living for is love God, love your neighbor, try to glorify God as much as you can, that's where my base comes back to, having a 3,000 year view versus a 70, 80 year view, hopefully.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. If listeners found what you shared valuable today, what is one thing they can do to lift you up, and where can they find you?
If you want to tell me, hey, thanks for, or if you liked it, like I'd love to hear your feedback on it. I also do these things like every once in a while, people will just reach out to me and they'll just like, can I ask you questions? And I'm more than willing to do that. So just like, let me know. If I have time, like I'll hop on and I've done those, like done like 3 or 4 of those recently. One of them was like trying to ask like questions of, they're trying to pivot into product marketing. One of them was asking questions about just like getting like how to go from product marketing to be a VP of marketing versus just staying in product marketing. So I gave him kind of the stuff I gave you as well. And then, yeah, let me know how I can help you guys out. And then if you have kids, like get this book. It's called Pancakes and Mr. Bear. It's a book I wrote. If you don't want to buy the book, that's totally fine. It's online. Just type in Pancakes and Mr. Bear, and you can watch it for free. As a fun little activity we did with my girls. So
very cool, Ryan. This was awesome. I mean, I got a page full of notes.
Good, man.
I have a show notes full of links and frameworks for everyone who listened. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything that you know.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And I'll send you all those links whenever I get around to it.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. Take care.